Star Wars 7x7 episode 2402. It's Saturday, which means it's time for a What to Watch Now episode of the show, and today we're talking about the kickoff debut episode of the High Republic show. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. So yeah, the kickoff debut show, very formal indeed. The first episode of the High Republic show, hosted by Christina Ariel. And this is going to be a bi-monthly series, so the next one's coming in March. And they're putting a lot of effort into this show in terms of its format. It's a longer show than their standard video shows. This one runs 23 minutes, but it is very slickly produced and it jumps and it hops and they get a lot into the show. It starts off, just to give you a rough outline, with a timeline review. So they talk about how all the stories that we know have taken place within, a very limited set of decades, and this new timeline of the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire, or fall of the Jedi, I should say, and the rise of the Empire, and then, putting the Bad Batch into the rise of the Empire space. That's, always exciting to see them start to talk about that, and continuing onward. So they give you the setup for where things have been, and then you get this story of where things are now with the High Republic. So there's a very wonderful summary done of Light of the Jedi and A Test of Courage, and also the initial storytelling from the High Republic comic series by Cavan Scott. So that gives you a level set, as Christina puts it, for what we have with the High Republic to start off this storytelling initiative. And then they go into a set piece where they talk about the Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Temple of Darkness storytelling thing that happened last year, which was really, one of the very first High Republic stories to come out. So there are interviews with multiple people at ILM VFX who worked on this Temple of Darkness story, including, information and insights about how awesome it was to have Frank Oz be a part of the project, and the insights that he gave to Yoda's character. And interestingly, one word that was described as being associated with Yoda's character was struggle, according to Frank Oz, and as relayed through the video. And that was really a very interesting way to be thinking about Yoda. So yeah, that was unusual and probably fodder for deeper discussion at a later point. And then they move into a roundtable discussion with Michael Siglain from Lucasfilm Publishing and the two authors of the first two books, Light of the Jedi and A Test of Courage, as we've been talking about also in these past couple of weeks. So Charles Soule and Justina Ireland are part of the conversation. And then from the roundtable, they kicked into an example of one of the characters of the High Republic video animation things that they've done, and this one with Bell Zadifer, who's the Padawan to Loden Greatstorm. Now, on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, they asked for questions, and they have the question and answer session next on the High Republic show segment, and they bring on Emily Skokani. Emily, I hope I said your name right. She is a junior creative executive. One presumes that she's with the Lucasfilm Story Group specifically, but it didn't say one way or the other, just a junior creative executive in her caption, her lower third. And then there are some reveals shared by Christina, including concept art for one of the Jedi who appears in Into the Dark, which is Claudia Gray's novel, and also a cover for the 5th issue of the High Republic, Cavan Scott one, not the High Republic Adventures, but there is mention made of the High Republic Adventures at one point in this whole proceeding as well. So yeah, all of that packed into 23 pulse-pounding minutes. It really does just go at a tremendous clip. And even the interview segment, the roundtable segment, which comparatively speaking, that would be the one that would go the slowest out of everything, just because it doesn't have the the same sort of energy and editing, if you will, that say, showing the animated video for the characters in the High Republic, or doing, the produced package for the timeline review, or the story summaries, or even the package that they did for the ILM Temple of Darkness thing. Just giving people time to breathe in those, live interview situations. That should have been the slowest thing, and yet it was still like at a very fine clip. It was really well done across the board. And I will say that as far as like new stuff, aside from the reveals thing at the end, there are little things here and there, like the Yoda struggle thing that they mentioned Frank Oz talking about. Also, there was something about Charles Soule when he was talking about the characters, and about how, with Luke Skywalker, we see him born and we see him die. And so there's a limited amount of things that you can do with him because his lifetime is pretty well set. But because of the fact that they are working with a whole brand new set of characters, they can do anything with those characters. They are not beholden to them or their timelines or anything like that. And that has already been demonstrated with some of the characters that they killed off in Light of the Jedi not long after they introduced them. So yeah, they are perfectly willing to take those stakes and run with them and make them, as serious and committed as you would hope that they would under the circumstances. And Justina Ireland talks about the Starlight Beacon station as being more than just a station. She refers to it as an endowed object in the story, meaning that it's something that does serve a functional purpose, but is a lot more meaningful than just that. And we're going to see that develop. The whole Starlight Beacon thing, the dedication happened and it went live at the end of Light of the Jedi. And there are, moments within A Test of Courage that interleave with that also, but we have a lot more to learn about the Starlight Beacon and its effect on the galaxy and what role it's going to play in stories going forward. There's also some discussion about Marchion Ro, who is the head of the Nihil, and they make the observation that you're almost rooting for that character, and that I thought, aligned very nicely with something that you and I talked about back in our discussions of Light of the Jedi, and the fact that they really did set that character up with his own story arc within Light of the Jedi, and that's something that they kind of explore a bit in the conversation as well. And Charles Soule talked about wanting to make him a fresh villain, something that was unlike anything that they'd seen before in Star Wars, but somebody who could be compared to a Darth Vader or a Kylo Ren, somebody who could stand up to those two in the annals of the ultimate Star Wars storytelling villains. And finally, even though the High Republic Storytelling Initiative, we're finding out, had been something potentially in the works as far back as 2014, it really wasn't until much later that Kathleen Kennedy said, all right, Michael, what are you going to do with this? You've got the time, the Skywalker saga is coming to an end. We're ready to do something. And in this interview, he talks about how they've been living in the story for 2 years. So, they had the idea to do something like this for many years, but they finally got the green light to do it comparatively recently. And so this is the result of 2 years of long, hard work with story group and with editorial and with these writers. But it's also the result of 7 years of hoping and wishing and dreaming. And so, congratulations all around to everybody who has made this launch possible. It's been a pretty amazing month for Star Wars with the High Republic so far, and it's going to continue into next month when they launch Into the Dark and when they launch the High Republic Adventures and more short stories. And it's an ongoing bit of fun for sure. So anyway, that is going to do it for this episode of What to Watch Now, the first episode of the High Republic show, and I will link to it in the blog post for this show's episode at sw7x7.com and in the show notes as well. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the show, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.